When it comes to the political left, the Democrats, the liberals, whatever you want to call it, is it me or does it seem like these people care about every single demographic group except for straight young men born of this country? They pander to women, LGBTQ, older voters, and even illegal immigrants, but they essentially tell young men to just screw off. And that's not to say that those other groups don't deserve respect. What's clear though is that the left side of the aisle prioritizes these groups at the expense of young men. And then they wonder why young male demographics went to Trump. And to no one's surprise, their answer to it is, oh yeah, they're just bigoted, misogynistic, sexist, homophobic, racist, fascist, all the words you can think of. Like, they're literally discrediting themselves by using those words. But let's look deeper into the issue from a few different perspectives. Obviously, relationships are down across the board, but young men are suffering the most. I think the basic statistic is something like 2/3 of young men are single. The share of young men who have had no sex within the past year is growing rapidly, and just millions of guys are living lonely lives. But instead of actually addressing that crisis in any tangible way, the culture just makes a joke out of it. You get called an incel. Just be confident, bro. Just take a shower, bro. You get told that you're entitled, that you need to step up your game, that you're not good enough. And the overarching narrative presented by the left is that, oh, women have had it worse historically, so your loneliness in the present just doesn't count. And overall, just the highly feminist culture within the past few decades or so have made it so that women have these ridiculously high standards. You go, girl, never settle, you're a queen, you're a boss babe. You need a guy who's at least a whole foot taller than you. He has to be fit and athletic, he has to be a liberal Democrat, he has to buy her nice things, he has to like animals. Just all of those requirements. It seems like nowadays dating for men is just trying to meet a checklist where it's impossible to check off all of the boxes. But it's a double standard, because on the other hand, if you as a guy say that, okay, I have my preferences too. You say something as simple as, I prefer a younger girl who doesn't have a high body count. Or worse yet, I prefer a housewife. Then suddenly, again, all the names come flying at you. You're a misogynist, you're a racist, you're a sexist, you're somehow racist and fascist too. So that's the problem with a lot of guys who are struggling with relationships and just lonely and single. But it goes even deeper than that, because even for the guys who do get into a relationship, it doesn't mean life suddenly gets easier then. The system still isn't built for you. For example, you all know about the divorce laws, how they overwhelmingly favor women, and how in the US, I think about 70% of divorces are initiated by women. Most of the time, it's not the men who are walking away, it's the men who are getting left behind. You see all these horror stories on YouTube about people saying that they got divorced and just their whole life collapsed right in front of their eyes. And when that happens, the courts are obviously quick to hand over full custody to the mother. They force the father to pay ridiculous amounts of child support and alimony, and the man basically becomes a paycheck. A walking, living paycheck, not a parent. And it doesn't stop there either, because there's the whole thing of false accusations too. It's not too common, obviously, but anything that can be even remotely labeled as making a woman feel uncomfortable, that's grounds for getting in trouble, getting sued, getting your whole life taken away from you. We've seen it before. You can lose your job, your reputation, your prospects for the future, sometimes even your freedom, without any legitimate chance to defend yourself. And if you try to fight it in any way, you'll be labeled as guilty for pushing back. So think about it in the bigger picture. On one side, you've got millions of guys who can't even get into relationships and are blamed for it as if it's somehow their fault all the time. On the other side, you have some men who are lucky enough to be able to get into a relationship, just to watch it collapse under the laws and the cultural attitudes imposed on them. So in both cases, as a young guy in this world, when it comes to dating and relationships, it feels like you're walking on eggshells. You end up either alone and constantly blamed if you can't find a partner, or oftentimes discarded and punished for it if you do. And just the overall culture doesn't make it easier either. In commercials, music, TV shows, whatever, all of this essentially just gets put under the blanket label of toxic masculinity. And that's something that I think young men need to push back on, and I think that's something that we're starting to do nowadays. And obviously, maybe there are people on an individual level who display these traits of toxic masculinity, but to throw such a broad generalization of it around, it just doesn't make sense. And I feel like this is obvious to say, but there's a problem with labeling masculinity in general as toxic. Because sure, I agree that masculinity isn't just one thing. It doesn't have to mean being the stereotypical alpha male or whatever. But let's be honest, a lot of young men do like going to the gym. We do like being physically strong. We do like sports. We want to be mentally stoic. We want to have some kind of fighting spirit within us. Historically, we've fought in wars throughout the centuries. So it's only logical that we as young men don't want to be lectured by someone who looks and lives nothing like us. Like the stereotype of some green-haired body positivity activist with a nose ring who tells us we're somehow toxic for just existing. And it's not even about disdain towards them. It's nothing against them. They can do whatever they want. It's just that we don't want to listen to them talk about what it means to be a man or their feminized version of a man. The real issue is, where are the people who look like us that we can look up to, who talk like us, who like the same things that we do, who represent even a fraction of what we value? Where are the people who actually understand what it's like to be a young man today? Two examples of figures that somewhat check these boxes: Joe Rogan, but if you like him, oh, you're a racist, misogynist, sexist, homophobic. Another one is Charlie Kirk. And they literally silenced him for good. And so young men are not happy about this. So in all, the message that we get from the cultural left, it's clear. We're shamed in the dating world, we're mocked in the culture, and we're called all kinds of names for just existing and having certain natural tendencies, interests, beliefs. And we can handle life for ourselves. We don't need the world to revolve around us. But is it too much to ask for at least someone to understand?